Hello, we're Megan and Angelika, and our assignment topic is nonverbal communication through gestures. Gestures involve movements of the body with or without speech to portray a message, whether deliberate or subconscious. Gestures are frequently used in communication between people and can vary from culture to culture. Through one's gestures, you can interpret how they feel about a situation and whether they are approving or disapproving. Gestures are commonly associated with arm and hand movements and also body positioning. The three types of gestures are illustrators, emblems, and adapters. Illustrators use gestures as a support for the words that they are saying. Without these words, the gestures or movements won't make any sense and are therefore inappropriate for communication. They are the most commonly used form of gestures and can be seen in a variety of different forms. They are commonly associated with emotional responses such as excitement or fear. Gestures of this nature tend to decrease as one thinks about the words they are going to say, as their actions may put emphasis on what they are saying. The next clip is an example of excitement with illustrator gestures.
And everybody hopes he wins because everybody wants to see what he'll do next. He won. There he goes. There he goes. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yes. Yes.
Emblems are gestures derived from deliberate movements, which have a direct verbal translation because people have assigned meaning to them. They convey a planned message without having to use spoken language. However, emblems cannot be used internationally, as gestures are culturally conditioned and carry different meanings. A person can easily fall into an embarrassing situation when they perform a gesture with a positive connotation, only to find out that in another culture it carries derogative and negative intentions. Have you ever performed any of these gestures? Do you ever think about how the other person was interpreting the message you were trying to portray? Even though the symbol's intended meaning was obvious to you, and you would not be offended by it, you must be aware that interpretations vary from country to country. This slide shows 3 common hand gestures that display a positive connotation in North America, but must be used with caution in other parts of the world. Needless to say, congratulating a coworker on a good job may lead to an unfriendly situation if he so happens to be Russian. If getting a taxi in rush hour wasn't difficult enough, imagine what it's like doing it in a different country where the customs are nothing like your own. Snapping the fingers to get a taxi is customary in France, where in North America, big movements like waving are more likely to attack taxi drivers. There are many other contradicting differences that we need to be knowledgeable of. When we shake our head, wave our hands, point our fingers, tap our toes, or make faces, we must be aware of our surroundings so as not to offend our peers. Being aware of these differences is especially relevant when traveling abroad and communicating with people that have different cultural customs. That is what it means to have good communication skills.
Adapters are gestures used without knowledge of that movement. They are subconscious and may reveal our true feelings about a situation. A nervous habit could be shown as an adaptive gesture because most of the time the person doesn't realize their actions, but communication is being made. The next video clip shows a man who is probably unaware of his actions during his conversation with the other person, but his fidgeting behavior is a non-verbal communication of unease or discomfort about the topic.
You're losing quality here, losing attention.
Last night when we had around that bus, they would take
Quality
the
control.
sunset.
You're losing it because everyone,
He had
you're
a camera
different, you see
somewhere
it different than I do.
that
Everybody sees color different.
Other examples of adapter gestures include lip biting, hair twirling, nail biting, leaning, and yawning. All are things that we do subconsciously.
Just as in all other professions, gestures play an integral part of the health science field. They are very important since patients may not understand your language or may be too young to understand what you mean. Gestures must be used wisely so as not to offend and to put the patient at ease. Posture plays a vital role in this case. Instead of standing with arms crossed and appearing standoffish, a good communicator would open their arms and offer an outreached hand to symbolize their willingness to help. Gestures can also be used to communicate to a patient who is hard of hearing or speaks another language. Showing how to swallow a tablet, use an inhaler, or perform the Heimlich are all situations in which gestures can be used. A patient can also use gestures to identify which area is hurting and what symptoms they are experiencing. In the medical industry and in every other situation, we must be aware that varying cultures means varying customs. We must use gestures with caution in such a way that they better our communication skills and not hinder them. Nonverbal communication is just as complex as spoken communication, because we do it without thinking. Sometimes our gestures do not match our facial and vocal attributes, leading to misinterpretations. Being a good communicator means being able to clearly state your intentions, whether they be verbal or nonverbal. Thank you for listening to our presentation.